We ready?
Yes. What page are
Okay.
we on?
Alright, so this unit we are going to talk about decimals. We're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, but we're going to be talking about decimals. Here it says we're going to do a self-check of things maybe you already know. And it says, I can. And then it has a box that says, before this unit, before we did it, or after. Okay, so you're looking at yours. It says, I can read and write decimals for each example. 80.63 equals 8 times 10, divided by 6 times 110, plus 3 times 100. If you can already do that, you're going to put it in, you already know it. If you do not, you're going to put it after the unit. It's like a self-reflection of yourself. So read those 10 statements there and see if you know how to do any of those yet. Now we have been exposed to these on our iReady, so they might be a little bit familiar to you, but you want to make sure that you can do it. Means I can means that you've accomplished it. Okay? So go ahead and just put a check mark. Aubrey, I like how you're reading them. Each one, every one of them, you're going to read and see if you can do any of those. These are the things we're going to be going over in this unit, but you might already have been exposed to them or know a little bit. So you'll just put simple before. If you know how to do these before, you're going to put a check here. After right there. Before, after. Some of them are adding, and again, you might have looked at these last year at the end of 4th grade. You've done this, and then you know, broken down like that. So you're going to do it after or before. You already knew it, or you're going to do it after. All right, I'm going to give you about 20 more seconds. Thumbs up if you're ready. Okay. Give those about 10 more seconds. Okay. All right, so if you put that, we're going to learn it after, or you're going to be familiar with it after, that's a great idea. Because these are all the things we're going to be learning in this unit, all about decimals. Adding, subtracting, place value, multiplying. Some of us can multiply whole numbers, but these are kind of like fractions. They're decimals. Okay? So if you'll turn the page, we're going to look at the next page.
That's that page?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. All right. Think it through. How many of you have seen these before? Good, good. So we're going to talk about place value today. We've talked about place value in the past, but today we're going to talk about what comes after the decimal, or the decimal itself. Okay, so I need all eyes and ears here. We're going to use a number system called the base 10. So we have single blocks. What is that word? One, and then we have a block of 10. Thank you. So what does this mean? 10, and this?
100.
And this?
1,000.
1,000. So how many 10s are in here? How many groups of 10?
100.
How many groups of 10? We have this is 100, right? So how many of these would it make to go
10.
make that?
10.
Autumn? 10. So there are 10 100s in here. So if we count back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 rows of those in that. Okay? So this is a place value model for just whole numbers. When we're writing a decimal, we'll have a whole number at the beginning, then we'll have a decimal. A lot of us call it a point. The point is a decimal, and then you'll have a number after it. So maybe you would have 3.21. Okay? We're going to learn that this part, what we're going to learn about is what the place value of these are. If it's in front of the decimal, that means it's a whole number. It's the whole big number. Okay. And then after the decimal is parts, like fractions of a number. Okay? So it says think place value in decimals is just like a place value in whole numbers, except they end in a really funny little thing, THS. THS. Okay? Hundredths, tenths. What would come after hundredths? Thousands. What about thousands? What would come
Millions.
after?
10,000.
10,000. What about after 10,000?
100,000.
I can't hear Ray saying.
100,000.
100,000. So they have a TH, which means it's part of a number. It's part. It's like a fraction. So now when we're looking at the whole thing here, the one whole is 10 times 1/10. So this is a 10. This is a 10. This is a 10. A 10. How many would be there? 10. So 10 tenths altogether equals
100.
no, one whole. One whole. Okay? So we're looking at, this is considered when we're looking at decimals only.
Drawing something to do that.
I know it's my sleeve. It kind of makes it see. Alright, so when we're looking at this place value, this is one whole. And then this says a decimal. This has 0.1. What does that mean? Is it just one piece?
No.
How many blocks are in this?
100.
100. So it's talking about one tenth. 1/10. Because there's 10 of them, but it's just saying 1/10. So that is only one part of the whole. Okay? Which is sometimes a little bit confusing because we're still thinking that this is 100. It is 100, but we're talking about decimals, so it's 100 and then just one piece of it. And then, or 1/10 of it, I'm sorry, 1/10 of the 100. And then the hundreds is one little piece. Okay, so it's not talking about the whole thing, it's just talking about a piece of one. So let's just look at this a little bit more. So if I had one piece of cake, this would be just one whole piece of cake. Who likes cake in here? Me too. Okay, so if we had one piece of cake, and we were going to divide it into 100 pieces, just that one piece of cake, Look how many little pieces there would be. How many pieces would there be?
100.
100. Okay? If I was going to take it and I was going to divide it into tenths, that means 10 people would get 1/10 of it. I would have, look how big a piece they would have then. Who would rather have that piece? Or would you have 100 and only have this little piece? Who would want a whole one, 1/10, or 1,000 of a piece?
110. 1,000.
You would just like one little bite?
Yeah.
Really? I'd like this. I'd want the whole thing.
No. I like cake.
What? You don't like, okay, pizza.
Oh, carrot cake.
Carrot
Oh,
cake.
I love cake.
Pizza.
Pizza?
One.
Okay. In a decimal number, a digit in one place has 10 times the value it would be in the place to its right. So if we're going to write 1, and then that would be a whole, and then to the left, or to the right of it is going to be the piece of it. So if I would write 1.1, 1.1, how many whole pieces would I have there? Brielle?
1.
I'd have one whole piece, and then what would that be? Would that be another whole piece?
No.
Autumn? What do you think that would be? Huh? Never mind. Anybody else? Like,
One piece of a whole.
one piece of a whole? Okay. Would it be 1/100th or 1/1000? Aubrey.
One whole, one body.
Okay, Aubrey.
One
What?
hundred.
1/100. When we're talking about place value, we do ones, hundreds, thousands. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. But when we're talking about decimals, we're going to do a whole, which would be ones, and then we're going to do tens, hundreds, thousands. Well, what's the difference? One has a comma, one has a decimal. Rio?
The decimal means that the ones after the decimal is not a whole number?
Right. The ones after the decimal are not a whole number. Are these a whole number if I said 1,111?
Yes.
Those are all whole pieces. But when we're doing decimals, we have below, past the decimal on the right are pieces of the whole. Okay? So, and it starts with, ones is already here, because that's our wholes. Then it goes to tens, hundreds, and then thousands. So if we're looking here, if we're looking at our ones, to get bigger, if we have one, and we want it to get to a 10, we're going to multiply by 10. Each time we go up to the next number, we're going to multiply because it's 10 times that number. It gets larger. Even here. So do you think, if we're looking here, is ones larger than tens? If you have 11 ones and 2 100s, which would be bigger?
2 100s.
200. Well, what about hundreds? If we have 1 100 and 1 10, which do you think is larger?
110.
1/10, because it's going to get larger and larger. Each time we go up, we're multiplying it by 10. 10 times the value. We're multiplying it by 10 because it's getting larger each time. Because you have one little piece, and then if I multiply that by 10, it's going to go to 100, 1/10, and then 1/10 times 10 becomes a what? One whole. All right, let's go to the next. We'll turn to the next page.
Oh, we're here.
You should be right here. But it's just on the next page. So take 100 is 10 times 1,000. Remember, this is when we're talking about pieces because we have a TH at the end. If I was not talking about fraction or part of a number, it would just say the number itself without the TH. If you break 100 into 10 equal parts, each part is 1,000th of a whole. That's a lot of words, isn't it? Okay, I like to use a picture. So I'm going to go back down and show you this. Here is my 100. If we counted each and every one of them, there would be how many little squares in there?
100.
100. Alex, you with me? What did I say? Pay attention. So, how many little squares do we have there? 100. So if I took them and I threw them all over the room, how many squares would I have still? 100. If I put them all together, I would have what?
100.
One big piece, just one piece, okay? Just like this. You have one little block, then it goes, if I add it, if I times it by 10, then I'm going to have 10. I'm going to have one whole 10. Then if I multiply this by 10, it goes to 100, and I multiply this by 10, it goes to 1,000. But when we go down here to look here, if we start out with one whole piece of pizza, or one whole pizza, excuse me, okay? And then I multiply it by 10. I'm going to go up. Am I going to get more? How many pieces would I have then?
10.
And then what if I multiplied it by 10?
100.
And then what if I multiplied it by 10?
1,000.
And I multiplied it by 10?
10,000.
So we would have have 10,000 pizzas. If we start out with one whole pizza and we multiply it by 10 every time, we're gonna go all the way up to 10,000. Then it would go to 100,000, and then 100,000 to a million. But when we're talking about decimals, we're talking about pieces of it. Okay? So I'd have that one piece of pizza, and I would break it into parts. So I would have 1/10. So I take that one piece of pizza. Well, that's not really a piece of pizza, but we're just saying.
We can say
Uh-huh.
square pizza.
Yeah, we'll just say a stick, like a breadstick kind of pizza. Okay? And then I'm gonna cut it into tenths.
Oh, let's do that.
Okay, remember I'm not a drawer. Okay? So I took one big breadstick, one piece of pizza breadstick, and I'm gonna cut it into tenths. That means pieces. Do we still have one whole piece?
Yeah.
But we just broke it down to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was right. Okay, so. Okay, so now we have 10. Now, we know it should be equal pieces, but remember, I'm not a great drawer.
Artist.
I'm not an artist, right? Okay, so now, what would we do now if I wanted to even break that down into smaller pieces? Yes,
Joel, even like, Joel lines that's coming down, not.
okay, so we could break this down and then it would go to 100ths. So I'm gonna take a whole piece, go into tenths, then I would have to put this all the way into 10 times that. I'd have to make, I couldn't do this on this little thing here, but that's what we're showing here. Is that then I would make it into 100 pieces, and then it goes on and on to the 1,000. So what I want you to understand is that we start out with a whole, and then we're doing decimals. We're going to go to smaller pieces, and then smaller pieces, and then smaller. Okay, we're breaking them down by, every time is by 10.
If you're all with more.
It's okay. So it says when the digit 1 moves one place to the left. So if you have your, remember what did we talk about? What's a digit mean?
A number.
A number. If we see digits, it's going to be a number now. When the digit 1 moves one place to the left, its value is 10 times what it was. So if it's moving to the left, we're going to go this way. Starts out with a 1. If we times it by 10, what would that equal?
10.
10. So is the number getting bigger, larger? Yes. Then, if we move when the digit moves one place to the right, so now we're going this way,
It will get smaller.
it's 1/10 of what it was. It does get smaller. So then it would be 1.1.
Oh,
1.1.
1.1.
So look at the first two numbers here. You have 1 1,000th, 1 100th, and 1/10. These are smaller than a 1. Then when you go up, they get a little bit larger. We can also write it as a fraction. So if I said 1/10, Aubrey, come over and write 1/10 for me on the board. Write it as a fraction first. 1/10, okay? All right, how can I write that as a decimal? I'm gonna write my decimal. How would I write 1/10? Alex?
1.10.
1.10? So you're saying 1.10?
Yes. All the way around.
Okay, what's the number before the decimal? 1, so that's a whole. So we're just writing 1/10. So that says 10. This number says 10. It is a 10, but 1/10. That means that we're going to take that 10 that we had and break it into,
Our theory is maybe 9 lines.
so this is going to be 1/10. We're going to write that as a decimal. We write it as a fraction. Rio,
0.1.
0.1. So do we have any holes?
No.
No.
Here's our 1/10. Do we have any holes there?
No.
No. So then we're looking at 1/10. So remember, this is the whole, and then it goes tenths, hundredths, thousands. So this would be the 1/10. Okay. To write the fractional fractional 1/1000th as a decimal, we'll write a 0 in the tenths place, a 0 in the hundredths place, and then a 1 in the thousandths. So it's just like if we were going to write 1001. 1001. How would you write that? 1001. How would you write that? Want to come show me? 1001. Caitlin, want to write it? 1001. We're just writing the whole number, 1001. Anywhere on there, right here. One thousand and one. Okay. Alright, that's okay. Alright, so 1001. We just write however we hear the number. So this is 1001. Do we have any hundreds?
No.
Do we have any tens? No, so it's the same thing when we're writing a decimal. We're going to put a 0 wherever the place is that we don't hear that number. So if I said 100. 100. How would we write 100?
Which page are we on?
We are on page
3.
3. Autumn, come on and
Miss
write
Lloyd, I see
100.
you're walking on. Yes, ma'am. Cynthia's dad is here to pick him up.
You're
I'm
sure?
sending him up. Thank you.
Who can help her? 100. Okay. So you're saying this is 1/100. So that's a fraction. Do we have any whole number here? That's okay. Let's try it again. Try it again. 1/100. Just 100. Okay, that's still 1.0. Let's see. So do we have any whole number?
No.
No. So we're gonna write, Blake, you wanna try? 100. 100. Okay, who agrees with that? Thumbs up if you agree. Right here, this is what he wrote. Like, just get this a little bit so you can pick on. Okay, do we have any whole number?
No.
No, so we have a 0 there for the place. Do we have any tenths?
No.
No tenths. So what is our number? Hundredths. So we would have 1/100. So we're going to have a decimal. We would put a 0 for our placeholder in the tenths, and then a 1 for our placeholder in, I mean, a 1 for our hundredths. Good job. All right. It's fine.
It's not satisfying when you do that. Last year, I
Satisfying,
really didn't
yeah.
understand decimals at all.
What is it?
Last year, I didn't really understand decimals at all.
Last year you didn't? You getting a little bit better?
No, but.
It'll take a little bit of time. Now we're gonna look at it. We're gonna compare two numbers. Which number does the digit 5, which is the number 5, have a greater value? And 0.05, who can read me that number? Alex?
5 tenths.
5/10? Look at it again. Number?
100.
Okay, thank you. Okay. She helped you out. Caitlin helped you out. I mean, Diana helped you out. 5 what? 5/100. So how would I write that as a fraction? Rio? 5 100ths.
5,
5, that's the part that we're looking at. And what would go on the bottom?
100.
100. Okay? Or, ooh, that's a big number. Who can tell me that number? Aubrey?
1,000?
What kind of thousand?
5,000.
5, not 5,000s.
5,000.
5,000s. 5. What would go on the bottom?
5,000.
Thousand. So that means if my pizza or cake, whatever you want, whichever you like, was cut into 100 pieces, how many pieces would we have?
5.
But then if it was cut into 1,000 pieces, how many would we have?
5.
How many would we have? How many, if it was cut into 1,000 pieces?
5,000.
Would you rather have a piece of cake that's cut into 100, have 5 of those, or cut into 1,000 pieces?
100.
Caitlin, what did you say?
100 you'll get more.
Right, 100 you would get more because these 100 pieces are going to be cut 10 times more, and they're going to be cut into 1,000 pieces now. So you start out with 1, and then you cut it into 10. Alex, come back to me, please. You have 1, and then they're going to cut it into 10s, and then you're going to take it into 100 pieces, and then you're going to cut it 10 times smaller into 1,000 pieces. So that's like very, very tiny. So would you rather have 5 from 1,000 or 5 pieces from 100? 5 pieces from 100. If I took 0.5, what would I have? Would I multiply it or divide it by 10 to get this number? 5,000.
Divide it.
You would divide it? Well, here it is. So we had 100, and then we went to 5 1,000s. 5 100s to 5 1,000s. Would I multiply this by 10? Or would I divide it by 10?
Multiply.
Multiply it by 10. Because we have 100, and then we want 10 times more. We're going to do it 10 times more, and then it's going to be 1,000. So 0.5 times 10 is going to equal 0, 0, 5. Hey, I want you to write what you think there. I want you to write how you understand.
I do not understand.
Okay, you don't understand? Well, let's go back over. Okay? Let's go to the next page and let's look at it in a block. Turn to the next page.
I don't understand anything about points.
Points is decimals. Alright, so when we're talking about points or decimals, we're talking about a smaller piece. Okay? So we're going to take a whole, one whole. Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Take a one whole. So when we're going to write it as a decimal, remember anything on this side is pieces, just like a fraction or part of. And anything on this side of the decimal is a whole. That's what you're going to start out with. Okay? So here's our whole. So what would be on this side of the decimal? What would that be?
The whole.
A whole, and a whole, how many is that?
1.
1. Okay? Then we decided we're going to cut it into pieces. Okay? Once I cut it into pieces, is it going to be a whole anymore?
No.
No? Is it, Johnny? If I take this and I cut it into pieces, is it going to be a whole? No. That means you're going to have to share with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So we're going to cut it into 10 slices.
Yeah, share it with 10 people. Just do 9 lines.
Okay.
Well, Barney, what happens if you share with more than? You have to split it.
Okay, so now we out with one whole, and now we're going to go to pieces. So now do I still have a whole all together? Just because you cut it into pieces, you still have it whole together, right? Okay? So now we're going to break it in because I want to take my piece of cake and I want to share it with 10 people. All right, so I start out with a whole, and now I'm going to have 10 pieces. So then, what if I want to share it with more people?
Split it in half.
Okay, you can split it in half, but we're talking with decimals, we're going into tens and hundreds and thousands. We're going to multiply it by 10 and make it into even bigger pieces so that more people can have a piece. Okay? So if we have one whole and then we go into 10, then we multiply that 10 by 10, how many pieces would we have then?
10,000.
Not 10,000.
100.
100. All right? So here is our whole. This is one whole. Right now it's a whole. Okay? Then I cut it into 10 pieces. Here's our 10 pieces. All these are 10 pieces. So then I can share it. So it goes from one whole to 10 pieces. Then I'm going to cut it again. I'm going to make it 100 pieces. So here's my whole right here. Here's a whole. We start out with a whole. But I'm going to give 3 of my pieces to somebody. I'm going to give 3 pieces away. What would this be called? A 10? Okay. Anybody else? It's the whole thing. So 3 out of how many pieces are in here?
100.
100. So we're going to write it as a fraction, which would be 3 100ths. But how would I write that as a decimal? Aubrey?
0.
Okay, 0, because do we have a whole anymore? We
Yeah.
cut it into pieces. 0,
0.0.
point. 0 what?
0.0.
0.03?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that? Why?
Because there's only one thing.
There's only one whole, and we're just looking at the whole itself. So she only has 3 of the 100 colored in, or gave 3 of the 100. Okay? Did we give a 10 away? No, we only gave 3 pieces of the 100. What about this one, Brielle? What would we do for this one?
For the decimal or the fraction?
The fraction and then the decimal. We're still looking at a whole, still the whole. How many pieces are in this whole?
100.
100. Okay? So how many are shaded?
30.
30. Okay? So how would I write that as a fraction? 30 over how many pieces?
100.
100. How would I write that as a decimal? Johnny, let me see Johnny. How would I write that as a decimal?
30.1.
30.1?
The opposite.
So if I write 30.1, how many is above, is in front of the decimal? That means there's 30 holes. Is there 30 holes there? Now they're cut into pieces.
Switch.
Okay, so how would I write it?
Miss Barnes, did we go for the second?
Yes. I'm gonna write a decimal, Johnny. What would I write? We're writing pieces.
1.30.
1 point? Where do you get the 1 from? How many pieces are shaded?
3.
3. 3 what? What do each one of those represent?
3 tenths.
3 tenths. Okay? So you could write
3 and 10.
3 and 10. Come and show me. Okay? Well, let's look at this. He wrote 3 and 10. Okay? Do we have 3 holes there? 3 holes, that's 100? What do we have? Okay. 3 tenths. So how would you write 3 tenths? and then what comes after the decimal, what kind of place? Tens, hundreds, thousands, ones, twos?
It's starts with 1, 7,
Right.
100.
Okay, so we don't have ones, because ones would be our wholes. So how would you write tens? How many tens do we have here? How many tens? Three, so where would we go? Yeah. You're right. Good. So remember what, good job. So when you're thinking